What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane podcast, episode number 56 today for an off-race week podcast. You're joined by your usual host, myself, and Caliban Tom, unfortunately, can't join us today, and I find that quite ironic that from last week we had, the three of us, and then four other guests.
Many guests.
So many people in one podcast to just two. So, Apologies for that, but, I think we said it a couple of times, but if you're wondering why sometimes it seems like lately a lot of the times it's becoming like a two-man, or I have to constantly bring in other people who aren't Caliban Tom, it's because Caliban Tom unfortunately have jobs now. Well, unfortunately have jobs on the weekend now that kind of get in the way of it. I feel like we probably need to plan recording the off-race ones a little bit better. I definitely think we could do that, like record them on the Friday. But then the thing is, I just know typically with us, we'll get unlucky and there'll be some bombshell news that drops on Saturday after we recorded the podcast on Friday. And then obviously for a race podcast, there's no two ways about it. It's always got to be on a Sunday, obviously. And Caliban Tom, unfortunately, I mean, it's annoying for them as well, personally, that they've missed so many races, and they will be missing a couple more for the season to come. But obviously, from last time, you saw we had like 4 different guests there that were with us at Silverstone. Hopefully, we can try and bring some of them on. Definitely all of them are kind of up for it, I feel like. So you may be seeing some of those new faces on the podcast sooner rather than later. But talking about Silverstone, Cam, I think it's kind of nice to kick things off before we get to any kind of news. Just reflect on that. Obviously, we couldn't really string sentences together in that podcast. So maybe we can reflect on it a little bit better. Right now.
A general apology for our state of the last podcast. It was just a bit of fun. I think some people took it a little bit too much to heart, but we were just having a bit of fun. It was the first time interacting, making a video together, so it was just a little bit of fun and getting some other friends involved. But obviously we couldn't really speak about the whole experience just because we were currently living the experience. But I gotta say, I think if you follow us, any of us on Twitter or any sort of social media, or if you subscribe to any of the YouTube channels, we all put vlogs out, and we've all come to the same conclusion. It was one of the best weekends of our lives, and we've said this countless amount of times, just because the F1 experience itself is incredible. If it's in the cars for the first time, it was my first Grand Prix experience. I think it was Ara's fourth, but a lot of us, it was our first Grand Prix. So just walking out and just seeing the cars for the first time in FP1 was incredible anyway. But also the other half of the camping experience, or 75% it seems.
Oh yeah, it's more like that.
Just us just having a great time together. The Woodlands is it's got such a great atmosphere, and especially like the lively area. People do like to interact with each other. Some people more often than not, and some people we want to. We're not going to go too much into details on that, but bumping into some of you guys, I do remember one person we bumped into. I think me and you, Aarava, were together, but it was just an incredible experience and something we've definitely got to do in the future.
Yeah, no, it was almost like a festival, almost, but there happened to be some F1 there. It was basically like that. Like, it was a festival without the music, and then there just happened to be some F1 sprinkled around over the weekend. I feel like, yeah, for sure, it was kind of like skewed the other way, which may sound weird to a lot of you guys in terms of like, we're focusing more on that stuff, but it really is like that if you have such a good group of people around you. It turned out to be a fantastic time. Obviously, last time for the podcast, I just want to put some context into that. It was on the Sunday evening after the race, obviously. At that point, we had drank every single evening since Thursday, and so everything kind of built up to the fact that we just couldn't talk half the time. Obviously, also, podcast is different to real life. In real life, you talk over each other anyway, because, you're in real life. You can use your ears to tune out someone's voice and like listen to someone else. Obviously on the podcast recording it's different. A few people got a little bit angst about that, but I think like I said back in the comments, like what do you expect? We were kind of half gone by then.
Yeah, a lot of people pointed out that I looked like I'd seen something.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't quite realise till I edited it back, but you literally looked so much more dead than I thought you did at the time. Obviously because we're all sort of half dead, but you were fully like
Sunday night
ready
after the race,
pass out.
Like the amount of footage that I just cut out of me vlogging because I couldn't even string a sentence, and that's when I was sober. So never mind when I was dead. But no, that's the thing with the group. It's just if you get a really good group of people together, it is literally, you're going out camping with a group of mates, going out drinking, having an amazing time. Oh yeah, and you've got a bit of Formula 1 on top of that. And it almost felt like a holiday. This is the thing about money, which we can probably link into it, because I think a lot of people would be quite curious. Money, it did burn quite the hole in the pocket. I think tickets ranged around £360. That was a reserved grandstand seat for Sunday, and spending money was in excess of £100. So it is coming around about £400-450-ish. And but it's like a holiday, isn't it?
It took like half. What was it? It took more than half a year to plan, basically. Like, we had booked it back in January. We had started talking about it the year before.
Way more
like, it took so long to actually plan that. I feel like now that we've done one of these, it'll be easier to plan, and we'll be a bit more kind of clued in of like, right, okay, I know how to, or like, especially obviously because I was the one like doing the whole group thing. It was all under my name. I feel like I'll be more. I now know what to say in the group chat if it's like, okay, we need to book this ticket, we need to do that and that. So we'll see for next year. I think, as I mentioned in my vlog, I think Spa has been maybe, trickled in a little bit, which would be absolutely insane, really. I think that will be even more of a kind of festival vibe, really, if we're doing like a road trip thing to it. But yeah, no, it was absolutely insane. Like, I think both me and Cam said the same thing. Just the company was just off the chart. Yeah, just insane, really. But yeah, that's a bit of a kind of looking back at Silverstone through more kind of less tired and sober eyes, really. So let's move into the F1 news then, I guess. I think the biggest one, obviously, the one that most of you guys will want us to talk about is the lovely Halo that has come back into our lives. And the FIA have confirmed that they're pushing it through for 2018. Part of me hopes that at some point later this year they'll be like, oh no, we'll take it back. But I feel like now, because the FIA has officially been like, we're putting it in there, I don't think there's any going back, unfortunately. So RIP T-cams on the F1 game, and just in general on the live feed. I mean, those live feed shots now on TV are going to look absolutely rubbish from next year. But the Halo, it's just a bit rushed. I feel like they haven't given enough time. Like, the excuse they gave, like, there was so much backlash yesterday or 2 days ago when they announced it, that the FIA felt the need to post an online statement of why they went with it. And pretty much Will Buxton, I think, was like, the long story short was, it's the only one that we've tested more than the others, basically.
I saw that, yeah. You know what the thing is about it is it does feel just really rushed, and obviously they planned for it to be in 2017, didn't they? That's because our very first podcast, I think, was us discussing the Halos, and it's not the first podcast we spoke about. It won't be the last either, I don't think. But it does feel like it's just been mega rushed, and the amount of Twitter arguments that I've seen have had so much validity behind them. Like, the main one but the only Achilles heel before we probably speak of all the bad things about it is, the thing is, if someone, let's say next season, and I know this is like weird, wild circumstances, if someone does get some sort of head injury from some sort of debris or something that the Halo could have prevented, the backlash against the FIA, I think the FIA can't actually like sit there and comprehend what would happen afterwards, because you could think of like the compensation and fine, because all the compensation that Jules Bianchi's family got from that sort of incident, just a freak accident, that is the whole underside. That's the thing of they pull it away now, which is what everyone wants to do, and what me and you want to do. It's just what will happen then. But the odds of that happening again, it's just wildly out of our minds, really. And the thing is, the cars are as safe as they've ever been, and they'll continue to get safer and safer each year. And the reason Jules Bianchi's crash happened, things have been put in place to stop that from happening. I think I don't know whether I spoke to you about this at Silverstone, but the amount of cranes that are just literally hung from like camera things, just so they can lift cars up without having to bring a JCB onto the circuit. They're scattered all the way around Silverstone, and I'm guessing they haven't been there in previous years. Like, obviously from 2014 onwards, they have put them around. Measures have been put in place to stop that sort of incident happening ever again. But I don't know, the aesthetics of it, the Formula 1 cars are supposed to look like the most beautiful cars in the world. and this year's cars look like fucking monsters. Next year they're just going to look like puppies.
Well, yeah, we took like 2 steps, like almost like 5 steps forward with the looks, and then we're taking like 6 back or something, basically, for something that's like it's always a tricky argument. Like we've said it before, it's like we had a debate about it because obviously Tom's very the other side of things, and I like to I always play devil advocate a little bit in terms of like, okay, let's try and look into why it may be a good thing, but it's like you said, like Bianchi's. I feel like too many times, not the FIA don't do it, but people on Twitter and stuff use that crash as a reasoning of why we need to push forward with safety. But it's like, if that is such a freak thing that occurred, and everything that went wrong there, as you said, Callum, they've tried to rectify with virtual safety car now. So the drivers are forced in measures where the FI feel like it's necessary, that they can't just cheekily try and push a little bit under yellows. Cranes everywhere instead of stupid tractors, which never should have been there. It still pisses me off to this day that there was a stupid, like, that was it. Just that stupid tractor was the point. The halo is not going to prevent that. The aero screen is not going to prevent that. But it's trying to prevent other things that have happened. The Massa incident with the spring, it just debris flying. Obviously, Grosjean and Alonso's little crash in 2012, the car going over and narrowly missing his hands. Yes, it will help to prevent that. But the point for me is, I'm not arguing that it won't prevent it. And I don't think you are either. I don't think any of us are. I think it's the fact that you clearly can see by FI's statement that it's basically just been rushed a little bit. And it's like, hold on. None of the drivers are screaming that I won't race in the next race because it's too unsafe. None of the teams are going like that. So let's calm down, and can we actually find an actual good solution that's maybe an aero screen that's built into the bodywork that doesn't just look like it's been strapped on top of a 2017 car. We've seen these concepts from Gran Turismo and Adrian Newey, like those awesome F1 cars that are like the aero screen's built into the chassis and it looks like a bloody rocket ship, like pilot kind of cockpit. Yeah. Like, if they took the time to design something like that and test it thoroughly, many, many times, not just a couple of free practice sessions, I feel like it'd be fine and justified. But the fact that basically, the long story short, like Buxton said, was basically because the aero screen's the only one they tested enough, we're going to go forward with it. And I think, what was the quote? It was like 9 out of 10 teams said they didn't want it. Like, they were like, no, we're not. Yeah,
Ferrari were the only team that agreed with it, which I know.
Not even agreed, satisfied, I think is the word. They were like, yeah, it's okay enough, we can deal with it. But the other 9 teams are just like, nah, like, we think there's a better solution, or we think there's a better idea. Obviously Red Bull thought their idea of an aero screen was better. Vettel kind of parred it off straight away in FP1 in Silverstone. But it's been like, it's only been like a year since they really started testing it many times. Obviously they did in 2016 in pre-season testing, but I don't think it's enough time. I think they would need way more tests, like way more tests.
The first team to actually test it were Ferrari, pre-season testing in 2016. And then all 10 teams came up with their own solutions. I think the best one that looked, I think Williams made it theirs white, but that still doesn't take away from the fact the aesthetics of it. But a lot of people have said, like you say, Arav, of maybe putting it into the chassis and really putting some thought into it. But then you've also got the underlying factor of, can F1 go through such a change like that? Can the cars go through that such of a change that, like, obviously it's to bring in these safety measures, but the cars will look that much different. That will it be still Formula 1? Obviously it will be Formula 1 underlying. It will be same team, same drivers and everything, but can Formula 1 go through that sort of change? And it's kind of weighing up. It's just the aesthetics. Formula 1, okay, in the past years, things have been brought in to make the cars look quite ugly, and engineers have utilised that. But in more recent years, like even the 2016 cars, I would say that them cars look beautiful, and the 2017 cars were just that much step higher. And Formula 1, they need to understand their stance in motorsport. Are they the leading, like, they are the pinnacle of motorsport, but are they the leading in how good the cars look? Are they the leading in the safety? Do they really need to do these knee-jerk reactions? Which, how many times have we spoke about knee-jerk reactions? Like, the amount of rules being brought in just to change something, and like honestly, I'm trying to think of like some sort of incident. The only incident that it can prevent from this Halo is just a tyre, and that's it. There's like Massa's incident wouldn't have been prevented. Bianchi's incident wouldn't have been prevented. Alonso getting out his car in 2016 might have been prevented. I don't know. I can't seem to see why it's. Yeah, exactly.
And also another good point is if it's too unsafe right now for F1, why isn't F2 and GP3 getting the same change?
I saw that on Twitter.
Like, also, I feel like they're younger drivers. They're more, like, not precious, but it's younger lives. Why aren't you focusing on them maybe as well a bit? Like,
well, they're more likely to crash. I think we can't.
Well, also
can't
that as well.
yeah,
let's be real. Yeah, they're more likely to also crash. We've seen too many times of a car sailing over another or like flipping in the air or something like that. If they are going to bring in the Halo for next year, where's the announcement it's going to be in for F2 and GP3? Like, I can't be the only one being like, that's actually so stupid. Like, where is the announcement?
It's quite ironic, isn't it?
Where is the announcement? Like, if it actually happens like that and it's not an F2 and GP3, I won't be able to take the Halo seriously. Like, I won't be able to even fathom the arguments of safety because of the fact, like, okay, if it is, then why isn't it on the junior series?
If it's that safe, then surely it should be on the lower categories. That's it's an interesting point actually, because that just makes FIA look like a complete bunch of idiots. Because if they think that that's the best solution to keep their drivers the safest it could possibly be in this Formula or Formula 1, Formula 2, GP3, then surely that would be the right solution. But I can only just imagine a GP3 car with a Halo on it, like a little baby one or something. Like it'd have to be quite a small one. But I don't know. Like the general reaction from Twitter's been very negative. Comments and YouTube videos have been negative. This, that, and the other. Memes have come out. If you haven't seen the Lewis Hamilton meme of the Halo, then you need to go see it. WTF one of him looking at the Halo when it was on Rosberg's car last season, and he just looking so unimpressed at the state of that. But we spoke about it countless amount of times, and I can't see them going back on it, to be honest, because it's very rare that the FIA go back on a rule.
They won't. It's in. It's going to be there. For all the kind of argument, like I also saw some people just going like, this happens every time there's like a big safety rule change. The entire F1 world just whines and stuff. It's like, I'll deal with it. I'm that much of an F1 fan that I'll just watch it anyway. I feel like I also feel like when things like this happen, it sort of exposes some people who are sort of like, they care too much about the wrong things about the sport that they apparently love. It's like, I'll still watch it. It's still going to be F1. It's still going to be these amazing drivers and cars. I'll still watch it. I'll get over it. But for now, it just sounds a little bit stupid, especially actually more so with the F2 thing. I think that's actually the biggest thing I'm kind of annoyed with. It's just like, why isn't it on the junior category then if it's so safe?
Also, thinking about it, shout out to Alex Wirtz.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
some of his tweets have been so stupid.
Martin Brundle, Karun Chandot, and everyone and their mother was like quote tweeting going, yeah, Wirtzy mates, you haven't really, that's like the no.
If you haven't seen the tweet, it was basically like, he was weighing up two options, and it was specifically and he was like, A, should we have the Halo, really improved safety, or B, good racing? And there's no correlation between a Halo and good racing. Halo won't ruin the racing.
It's literally the no correlation meme of X, Y, and all the
Jacques Villeneuve. And I've always liked Alex Wirtz. Like he's always spoke from the driver's perspective.
He spoke some sense.
But that wasn't sense because he made a specific A lot of people were defending him, saying, "Oh, he probably meant that what should we be focusing on more?" There's no correlation. You can focus on both, or you can focus on neither. It's up to the FIA. But no, if you don't speak sense in the Formula 1 world, you'll get called out for it pretty quickly. That's what I like about this community sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the Halo. I don't want to go into it anymore. We talked quite a lot about that. So let us know. Let us know what you guys think about it in the comments below. I'm sure there'll be a lot of shouting comments about it, and hashtag Halo. I've seen where that's the one thing I can agree with the people who say that they get annoyed by everyone up in arms. I do get annoyed by straight away. You just see every hashtag in the known universe out everywhere, and the commentators like, okay, we get it. Okay, enough of the Halo out hashtag. We get it. Okay, we get it. You're out. Okay,
we're out with that one.
Anyway, we mentioned F2 just briefly there. And that gets us onto a topic that I was talking about on Twitter, and it's come into play because Haas has basically said that they are basically going to be re-signing Grosjean and Magnussen, which is a very logical and good move for them. It makes sense. Both of them doing a decent job. Their car has got issues. The one thing that doesn't have issues is their two drivers. They're doing a good job, so less focus on the drivers, more focus on the car. It's very logical for them. But that coupled with all the talk about Kvyat still getting a seat for next year, apparently. Basically, I said this on Twitter yesterday. It's going to break my heart if we don't see the likes of Gasly, Giovinazzi, and Leclerc in F1 soon. Like, next year, I really want to see Gasly in. I would love to see also Giovinazzi in. The most likely one would be Gasly because of the whole Toro Rosso thing. If Kvyat doesn't get a seat, that's the easiest seat to fill with Gasly. But there've also been some talk about if Sauber do the U-turn with Honda and go back to Ferrari for 2018, because apparently the deal's off now with Honda. If they do the U-turn, go back to Ferrari, that'll be straight in there. Giovinazzi will get the seat alongside apparently Ericsson, and so that may leave Wehrlein, unfortunately, free-falling. And Mercedes will have to try and maybe find him a seat somewhere, because obviously Mercedes basically they're trying to pay for Wehrlein's seat somewhere, because they know he's a talent. There's just not enough seats, and that's the thing. There's not enough seats for how many of these drivers are there. And then you got Leclerc, who's the GP3 champion. He probably will end up being the GP2 champion. I mean, he's slapping the entire field, basically, in the feature races when, obviously, I don't count the sprint races because they do that reverse grid thing. In the feature race, when it's down to qualifying, then the race, he just slaps everyone pretty much. So it's like you've got all these three talented drivers and many more, I'm sure, who are coming through the ranks. And there's just not enough seats to be filled. And you've got people in F1 that are either paid drivers who shouldn't be there, or they're just the old guard, as I like to say. And for some of them, I feel like it's time to go. It's time to say goodbye. It's time to shake hands and be like, it's been a great time in the sport. It's time to leave now. You know, let the new blood come in. I don't know what you think, Callum.
We need to remove this stigma around lower drivers, because I think we've seen it on your channel with certain series, like My Driver. There seems to be quite a... I don't know whether it's a stigma of like people just being quite ignorant to the younger drivers coming up because they don't know who they are, or it's the fact that they're being too loyal to their drivers that they're currently in. And I can understand that completely if it's being loyal to the drivers. If you come into Formula 1 and you see a driver and you've been supporting him for all that time, I'll use myself as an example. I came into Formula 1 in 2009. Hamilton was the current world champion. I've been supporting him ever since. And he said straight up that it's probably 5 or 6 more years before I'm going to be leaving the sport. So fair play to him. I'll have to find someone else. And when it comes to in 5 years' time, I will be quite annoyed because I'll have to try and find someone else. I've just been in the position himself with Jenson Button. It's the fact that you've got to find someone new to start supporting, and you can't fully support them. It's hard to just. It's like switching football teams. You can't just switch another football. You can't switch to another. It's not as easy as that. But the thing is, I'm one of them people that I've always been quite ignorant of the lower categories, but more recently, after watching one of the races live and really being interested in some of the drivers and some of the great talents that are coming through, it is time to get some of these good drivers in. And the three names that obviously keep coming around are Charles Leclerc, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Pierre Gasly. And at the minute, I can't see any of these three drivers on next year's grid. And like silly season has started now. Silly season always starts around about now. And we can probably do a rundown of the whole grid, but because if you look at go Mercedes Academy, that sort of route. Hamilton and Bottas, that will be Mercedes. Bottas is doing a stellar job. It's a perfect combination, I think, at Mercedes at the minute. Hamilton's a rock star. Bottas just gets on with his thing. Job done. And then you look, okay, what's the next team? Force India then. Well, Ocon's dominating. Ocon's doing an incredible job in his debut kind of year, his first full season. And Sergio Perez, I can't see him. I don't know where he can go next season. So I can't see any of them moving.
Staying put. Perez, and then, me, at the moment, just looks like he'll be that midfield. He'll be like Hulkenberg. Like, I don't think he'll ever get like a top team again.
Don't tell Justin that, but I just can't see.
Yeah, no, I can't
Perez
see it. I mean, that's
anywhere.
not a bad thing necessarily, because he's still going to be known as a great driver. He's a fantastic driver. I just don't think that he's got that extra pedigree that top teams are kind of looking at. But yeah, no. But going through the drivers again, and then you got Ferrari. Perez was sort of in that before, but now I guess he's sort of like half not. Grosjean sort of in that with Haas, but then you've got Charles Leclerc in GP2. And then you got a Red Bull program. We've talked about the Red Bull program so many times before. It's a mess. There's too many drivers and not enough seats, and it kills careers sometimes. It really does. But you know, for in terms of like, we're talking about we say young drivers. Giovinazzi's 23. Like, Vettel and Hamilton were already champions by that point. Like, Vettel was a champion already. Like, he got his chance. It's just like, it's so frustrating to see, you know, a driver like that where he's clearly got something, and he just, you know, I feel like, yes, okay, we can't 100% say he'll be good, but at least give him the chance for one season at 23 years old to actually have a go, versus these drivers who are just there in their like 6th season. They're not special. They're not, you know, they're not shouting out. They're not done anything amazing. They're just there to get points, and it's like, just give the lad a chance. Give, you know, you got the GP2 champion who's doing Super Formula now, just not doing anything, waiting for Kvyat to leave. And then Leclerc, he's getting the drive at Hungary for a test. Hopefully that's the start of Ferrari being like, okay, Charles, lad, as soon as Kimi leaves, you're in. Because I honestly think that, you know, sometimes these top teams, obviously, they don't want to take the risk, but that's sort of the issue with the sport. It just doesn't want to...
I cannot physically remember the last time Ferrari took a risk with a driver.
No.
If you think of their past lineups...
Well, the last time a top team took a risk was Hamilton, and that wasn't even a risk, because back then testing was so big that Hamilton basically had 300 million years of testing experience, that he was, like, walked into that car and he was like, oh yeah, I've been in F1 basically for 5 years at this point.
Which is the reason why he did so well in his opening race and all that stuff. But now I'm just thinking about past Ferrari lineups. You've got Vettel, Raikkonen, Alonso, Massa, Massa, Raikkonen, and then it'll be Massa, Schumacher. And that stretches back more than 10 years. Like, they haven't taken a risk in so long with drivers, and the amount of drivers that have come and gone with thinking they can get Ferrari seats. Because at the minute, the main one name that keeps popping up is Grosjean, but I can't see him ever getting that seat. I really can't see Romain Grosjean in a Ferrari seat. In my mind, I'd like at least one of the young drivers, either Giovinazzi or Leclerc, to get that. but at the minute, you just thinking. Obviously, we've only got 10 teams on the grid at the minute. We have got ideas of another team.
Not enough seats.
Back in 2010, we had 12 teams on the grid, and it just allowed, even if drivers are wasting away at the bottom, at least it allows them to get experience. Look at Daniel Ricciardo. He started off in HRT in 2011. Yeah, where he is now.
Yeah, I went to that Grand Prix 2011, rocking up like, who's this random Australian who's got the HRT seat for this one-off race? Ricciardo. I remember seeing he was trolling around at the back, half a lap down in that shit car. But it's like, that's how you start. That's how these people start. And at the moment, there's no HRTs to get these lads to start in F1. It's like, they come out champions of GP2, and then it's like an off period. Like, Giovinazzi's not getting racecraft practice, just sat in the garage doing an FP1 session for Haas.
You've got driver Kubica. He's wanting to come, allegedly wanting to come into Formula 1.
Allegedly.
I've just seen an article of Felipe Nasr wants to get back in. He can go away, but some drivers want to get in. And you've got Gasly, who's just wasting away. He went to Formula E in New York. He just did that just because he was bored. He was just like, sod it. Let's do a bit of driving. But I don't know. It's just, you've basically got to look at certain drivers, such as Raikkonen, Massa. I want to say, to be fair, in the bottom half, Ericsson, but he
won't
okay
go.
Job,
but he's also an issue. He's another seat that just is getting filled up.
Palmer, As much as
Palmer.
people hate us hating on Palmer, to be fair, we were very anti-Palmer last time out. Josie, if you know Josie, she's very, very anti-Palmer, so it's quite contagious sitting next to her. But we've always tried to keep a fair stance on Palmer, but we've never really liked him at Silverstone. The whole
I'm sorry, let's be real. Just get him out. Him out. Ericsson out. Get out. Raikkonen, just retire, mate. I know you know people are gonna get salty. Look. You can bore off. I'm a JB fan. I've already dealt with it. I've been there, done that. So you can bore off on the Kimi should still be there. He's just there. He's doing the job. He's getting some points. I don't want that. I want some excitement. I want some new blood. I want some fiery stuff in that Ferrari car. I don't want safe points, gets a podium, satisfies the older fans. I want some bloody fire in that Ferrari car.
Someone challenging Sebastian Vettel. At the minute, only last race, really, because I mentioned it in... I've managed to
the one we went to was the only one where Raikkonen was like, he's on it like a car bonnet. He's slapping Vettel this race. Yeah. But before that, nah. But just need some fire there. Massa, you're doing a decent job. Fair play to Massa for coming back. Doing good enough job, but please just go. We need a younger driver in there. Stroll, okay, he's got third, but even so, even though he's got third, he's still a pay driver. It doesn't change the fact he's a pay driver. He's still paying massively to be there. So get out. Need a young driver in there that's actually earned their way in. There's just so many issues with the teams, the way they're reluctant, because it's obviously because the sport's got so competitive and it's so money driven. They can't afford to not have these safe drivers in there, just getting them the points. Yeah, and that's another issue there. Then, like we said, sort of, there's also just that general kind of a lot of the fans they're quite ignorant to the younger drivers. They're quite touchy about keeping their stars in the cars.
Well, there has been an idea, I don't know whether you've seen this on Twitter, but about having a third car for specifically young drivers every race weekend.
I would love that.
Cannot score. That. There's some sort of rules where they can't score specific points. I don't think they can score either it might be they can score constructors' points, but not their own points, or something like that. In which it's a no-brainer for teams, because if they can score more points to the team, then they can score more points to the team. But the drivers are still young. They're still got to have that extra step up. But it's like almost a middle category between Formula 1 and Formula 2, because we need like a Formula 1.5 really, because we haven't. These drivers are wasting away too much. There's way too much wasted talent going through. And if
I think an idea could be also, we've talked about it before, like practice sessions sometimes are a little bit dead.
Oh yeah, we can agree with that.
I would think
we want them on.
Change FP2's name to FP1, change FP3's name to FP2, and change what is now FP1 to a young driver free practice session where you have to, if you want to run in this session, you want to run a car, you have to put in a younger driver from GP2 to run in it. Or one of your third drivers. Okay, if you've got the cars, that's just more reward for you. Like, well done for having more, so you can run 2 cars in the session. But you have to, by rule, either put in your third driver, your development driver, your test driver, or a GP2 driver that you're affiliated with and you've agreed a deal with in that session. An hour and a half, give them the chance, get some data running. They get a chance in the car to show off, they're good at collecting data and whatnot. That's all important for F1. It's not much of a factor in GP2 and GP3, F2, and GP3. I think that'd be a much better thing. And also, at the same time, then it would make the F1 drivers, that race, a lot more intense, because they have a lot less practice time, and it's a lot more kind of, get the job done, otherwise you're screwed.
Yeah,
basically.
But they're F1 drivers,
that's great.
So you're expected to just do well. But, to be fair, I wouldn't argue against that at all, because the thing is, as well, the amount of times we've seen drivers obviously be replaced in FP1 for a younger driver. We saw it last time out. Antonio Giovinazzi got an FP1 drive.
Yeah.
And the driver that he replaced was...
I think it was K-Mag, I think.
That much. Obviously, it disadvantages them compared to other drivers, but if all drivers, they're not at any sort of disadvantage by not being in one less session, maybe, obviously, not one less session for the drivers, maybe just add an extra one, or maybe make them all an hour long. So have FP1, FP2, FP3, FP4, and just make them an hour long, which I won't argue against too. But the whole thing of we get it wrong all the time. The reason they've made it into F2 instead of GP2 is just because they want to create a link between the two. But at the minute, it doesn't seem like it's done anything. And the old driver silly season is still all over the place. But I don't know. I think that's less said on that, the better now, because it's just going to make me angry thinking that some of these drivers aren't going to be on the grid next year.
Yeah. It's just it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It's why I like doing my driver so much. Just I can actually put these drivers who do, in my opinion, deserve top seats, just being there and basically boring off all those drivers where there's way too many fans that get too attached to it. It's like, I could have been the same thing, and I was like the same thing, but eventually I did put my hands up and go, no, even though, yes, Alonso is slapping Van Dorn a little bit, Jenson just doesn't have it anymore. Like, Van Dorn was a better choice for this season. There's a point where, like I did, every fan will have to accept that their driver is not going to be around for a while. Like, it's like, I literally said this to you, Cal, I'll bring it up again. It's like Doctor Who. If you ever watch that, guys, it's like that. If you don't know how Doctor Who works, there's different doctors. You know, they span different series, but there's a different actor sometimes every 3 series. And basically, generally, whoever you start watching that series with, that's your doctor. It's like that with F1. It's like the grid you started watching is your grid. And so I can understand how it's like you feel comfortable with that, you don't want that to change, but eventually the names you think of when you think about F1 now are not going to be there. Your Hamiltons, your Vettels, Raikkonens, Massas, Alonso's, they're not going to be there forever. Eventually, the top drivers in this sport will be your Verstappens, your Ricardos, your Verlines, your hopefully, God forbid, hopefully, Leclerc's, Giovinazzis, Gasly's, whoever else we don't even know who's in GP3 or in F4 or whatever they are in right now. Eventually, that will happen. You know, if Hamilton leaves the sport at the end of his contract 2018. Well, Verline's going to have... Well, surely, like, Verline or, you know... actually, probably more logically, they'll just probably buy an older driver to get in, like Alonso or something like that by that point.
Or get, like, man like Ocon in.
Yeah. But, you know, if something like that happens... You're going to have to deal with it. There's going to be a young driver in there or something like that. So it's going to have to happen sooner or later. Unfortunately, right now, it's happening later, and that's killing off some of these drivers' careers. And they'll never see the day. They'll never see the light of the day, basically, for F1.
Now, also, another point about the younger drivers, though, is the fact that, you know, if they are signed on to these sort of academies, into the Ferrari, the Red Bull, whatever, they aren't loud enough. They don't speak loud enough. And you can understand why, because I've just literally just looked at an article. Giovinazzi said he is confident and he just feels generally confident that his F1 career is in Ferrari's hands. That's the thing. What about if Ferrari just go, you know, bun you, we're just going to keep with these 2 drivers? And Giovinazzi can't say anything because if he does speak up about it, Ferrari can just go, okay, bye then, because you've got a terrible attitude. But if he doesn't speak up about it, he might just not end up with his seat anyway. So you can see why these young drivers are put in a position where they literally just sat there wasting away. Van Dorn was just last season sat there watching the race, because you can't say much more, because you can't just go, yeah, you know that Fernando Alonso? Say bye to him. I think I ought to have that seat now. Yeah, they can't do that anymore. Well, they could never do it in the first place, but I don't know. Hopefully next season or in coming seasons when the halo isn't on the car, we can actually end up with a fresh grid, because it's been a while since we've had a huge amount of... I remember every season we used to have like load of driver changes every single season.
Lately, there's been less and less new blood coming in. Yeah.
It's quite odd, that is. But on other news, before we end the podcast, because there is other bits of news that has been going around. There has been a bit of an uproar into Pirelli. I've seen quite a few people being quite annoyed with the Ferrari fans specifically. And Vettel and Raikkonen's slight punctures. Obviously, I finally found out what went wrong with Raikkonen, because in the last podcast, you didn't have a clue.
Yeah, and people like, when Ara finds out, well, Raikkonen basically just did a me, for my mod career and just couldn't make the tyres last.
But there has been quite like an uproar into Pirelli, and I don't see why, because they've basically just come out and said that they haven't got a reasoning into why Vettel and Raikkonen had punctures. More specifically, I think Raikkonen, they still don't know. They're still looking into it as we speak. But Vettel's was just apparently a slow puncture, and the reason for that slow puncture, there's no reason behind it. It must have just been a bit of debris. The Ferrari fans have been putting Pirelli on roast.
you know what, Ferrari, your car just may be a bit shit on tyre wear around Silverstone. Let's be honest. Let's just accept that, because Hamilton came straight into the little 3-man room. Was like to Bottas and to Kimi. Was like, did you get graining? He was like, yeah, massive graining. It's like, so every driver was just struggling with it. Just Ferrari were just worse. That happens.
But I forget as well, Vettel was the first driver in the pits. Yeah. In that whole field.
Yeah, exactly.
First driver
that happens. Remember 2013, Mercedes were woeful in their tyres. Like, it happens. Like, you can't expect it. Like, that's just racing sometimes. Your car's just not going to be the same track to track sometimes.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting point. I just saw them out of roasting. I was just like, Pirelli out, get rid of these shit tyres. It's like, the tyres have been good, mate, last season and this season.
Pirelli 2011 in. Pirelli 2011 in. I want some 4-stop races again, mate. God, 4-stop races.
That was hard to keep up with. That was. I was struggling to keep up with race strategy on a 1-stop at the side of the track. Never mind a bloody 4-stop strategy and all that cracking off. But any other bits? Singapore. It's worth noting that it was apparently going to be their last race this year, but they're actually getting quite close to a new deal. Mixed feelings on it because I'm not that bothered about Singapore. It's just always a long race. It's just always a very, very long race. It's hard for me to watch, so
I like
obviously always put drivers on. Yeah, it's a great spectacle and everything. But again, apparently the promoters were in Britain actually to get a new deal signed, but it's not the deal we really want, to be honest. After going to British Grand Prix, we kind of want Silverstone because there's this. I can't fathom a calendar without the British Grand Prix on it. I just can't. Or just Silverstone not being on it, to be honest. Like, I just can't fathom that spectacle. It just maybe I'm a little bit like prejudiced against it because I'm a Brit and I always want my home Grand Prix. But it's Silverstone. It's like the core of Formula One. It's where Formula One started. So the fact that we could potentially not have Silverstone on the grid, on the calendar.
And you have so many teams based in this country, so it's like, okay, we don't have a Grand Prix here. Decent.
Makes sense. Went the amount of like towns and cities we went past.
We didn't speak about it, but let's be honest, it's Silverstone's fault. They agreed to a stupid-ass contract where it was like, by 2025, they'd be paying like 20 million for the race. It's like, yeah, your lawyers and your negotiators really done a shite job there. That's a really bad contract you signed.
Doesn't the cost of it go up every year as well?
By like 1 million,
yeah.
It started at 12, I think, or something like that. So it goes up 1 million every year or something like that. It's just a stupid contract they signed. So if it does go, it's going to be sad. But Silverstone has they're the only ones to blame. Like, I don't agree with anyone starting all these petitions and like GoFundMes for Silverstone. Yeah. No, it's their fault. It's sad, but it's their fault. They're a private circuit. It's their fault. That's also one issue, though. The government doesn't back it. Our country doesn't have the funding to back it, basically, right now. We're not in a good shape right now, economically, to do that. But it's their own fault for agreeing such a stupid contract.
It just goes to show how much of a twat Bernie Ecclestone was, honestly, with some of the contracts he was given. And that's the thing. Silverstone aren't even paying the most. I think Russia are paying the most. They're paying it in excess of 50 million a year for that pile of shit.
Well, we know why that's staying around then.
Yeah, just because of all the money. But I have a feeling that surely it's somewhere in Liberty Media's hearts that they can realise that even that 50 million that's coming into the sport every single year, they've got to realise that Russia is a terrible, terrible racing circuit, and it needs to be gone. It needs to get gone. Get money from somewhere else, but not Russia, honestly. I'd rather just have one less race on the calendar, to be honest, than go to Russia.
Just take a bulldozer to the track and maybe add some hills, some undulation.
Yeah, that'd be quite nice.
Maybe cut some of those 90-degree corners into a swooping right-hander or a swooping left-hander, so I can say that in the commentary about 5 times.
Swoop. But other than that, I don't think there's anything...
I think that's it. It's for a two-man... For a two-man, we've talked quite a lot here, to be fair, Callum. I think we've done a decent job. So if you have enjoyed the podcast...
Bad dying.
Yeah. If you have enjoyed the podcast, hit that like button. As I said, apologies, it is a two-man. As I said, because we've got... You will be seeing, hopefully, fingers crossed, a lot of those guests that we had in the last podcast on the podcast in the future. I would love to get people like Josie in or Niran or Hayden back on. just it gave a new feel, it gave a different vibe to it, different perspective, obviously as well, and also especially with Caliban Tom's situation, it'll be kind of needed basically for some of the races or some of the
I don't want
ones.
this little spot to be blank all the time. I do want to start moving on.
Yeah.
It's just like I can explain my situation brief. It's just the fact that I'm contracted to Sundays, like midday, so I miss most of the European races. I'm planning to take the Singapore race off, and then for the remainder of the season, I should be fine. I should be more back on. But that's not our of being all like, oh, bun these two, they're never here. Like, me and Tom have both agreed that we want other people on. We enjoyed the different vibe of other people because obviously there's only a certain amount of Formula 1 we can speak about before. You know our opinions. You know what we all want to say.
Exactly.
It's obviously the only new opinions are from a fresh race, and sometimes we're not always here. So it's nice to get new opinions in, and it's nice to maybe branch out and get some lower YouTubers as well, or higher YouTubers in terms of my case with Niran. But yeah, hopefully we can get more of them on.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Also, you would have seen it on my vlog of F1 Live London. That's also another guest talking about higher YouTubers. I do really want to try and get Will and E on. He's a top lad. He really does actually genuinely come on the podcast. It's not like I need to badger him for it. I just need to he's a busy man, obviously, so I need to try and sort out a schedule for him to maybe come on. But I would love to get him on. But yeah, all those guys we had on the podcast last time, I'd love to bring them back on. It just gave a good different flavour as well. And then obviously that'll alter me. Maybe I can just talk less in a podcast because I know some people sometimes are like, oh, I talk way too much in a podcast. It's just because I host it, basically. So usually I'm the one navigating the conversation, or Callum will be the one with the news, basically. Yeah. But don't get me wrong. I would love to just sit here and just listen to people. I don't mind that. I don't mind people doing all the work and talking for me. To be fair, so but that's been this podcast, episode number 56. If you did enjoy it, hit that like button. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed to this channel for the podcast. Check out our Twitters. Links above our names. And that has been it. We're also on SoundCloud. Didn't mention that for 43 minutes. Decent.
Well, SoundCloud may
rip.
Anyway.
It may go.
I think it's going to rip. I think that's the idea of it.
Okay.
So we're on SoundCloud still.
We're
but
still
eventually
on there.
We won't be. Yeah.
We're still on there. Going into next year, 2018, I really do want to try and nail down trying to maybe get the podcast on iTunes and whatever else I can get on. I don't know. It's a bit of a faff. To be honest, I'm very comfortable just putting it on YouTube because obviously we started on YouTube. It's where we are. It's where most of our audience is. So, but whatever. We'll get into it later. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you enjoy this podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.